Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi seems to be the only one of Disney's Star Wars movies to escape without much alteration or controversy. Of course, 2015's The Force Awakens went through multiple rewrites and reimaginings. 2016's Rogue One was infamously reshot to a large degree. The two directors of 2018's Solo were kicked off halfway through the shoot, and 2019's currently untitled Episode 9 lost its director before pre-production had even begun. But The Last Jedi seems to have remained largely unscathed, with much credit going to the movie's director, Rian Johnson. In fact, in the book The Art of the Last Jedi, Rick Heinrichs, the movie's production designer, is quoted as saying, "So many things were fleshed out in Rian's mind. I'm used to the normal process of the write and the rewrite. In this case, it was the pitch and the write. And that script came all the way through with very minor changes along the way." Despite this, the book, which is currently available from publisher Abrams Books, reveals many insights into various scenes that were ultimately removed from or never realized for the final movie, as well as details on numerous characters whose concepts changed over time. Here I plan to go over some of the major alterations and removals as seen in the book. This is Star Wars The Last Jedi, The Deleted Scenes. Before I continue, however, beware that this video obviously contains spoilers for The Last Jedi. This is your last warning. Luke's Mystic Jedi Temple. It seems in early versions of The Last Jedi, Luke had himself some kind of Jedi temple up in the mountains and he's recluse. In fact, these ideas go so far back that the book notes that some of these designs were even presented to and given the seal of approval by George Lucas. Legendary Star Wars concept artist Doug Chiang describes his artwork as a really eclectic mix of architecture and mysticism. Things that hint at the power of Luke. Weird stuff. So I had the idea of floating rock domes, little things that are very Star Wars. In another piece of concept art by Kevin Jenkins, Luke is seen showing Rey around the island on a primitive skiff, described by Jenkins as Luke's only serious technology. Rey's crash landing. One original idea, shown here in another of Jenkins' concepts, saw Rey not being able to land the Millennium Falcon on Luke's island due to its rocky surface, and having to deliberately crash it into the water and swim through the Jedi Temple ruins to find Luke. But I assume the idea was axed due to the creatives wanting to keep the Millennium Falcon around in the franchise, instead of sinking it to the bottom of the Mystic Island waters. Reys Training. While Rey didn't seem to go through much training in the movie itself, it seems at one point very early in concept design, Rey, at this point referred to as Kira, was seemingly set to go through a very thorough Jedi training. One concept by Carl Lindbergh seems to show Rey training alongside a multitude of seeker droids or training remotes. Of course, this takes cues from the scene in which Luke trains against a seeker on the Millennium Falcon in A New Hope. I personally would have loved to see this make the film. It would have been a visually stunning and exciting sequence. Sith Ghost. Now this one's very interesting. One idea for the movie involved Luke not only being visited by Force ghosts of Jedi past, but by a Sith Ghost, something never seen in a Star Wars movie before. Artist Christian Oltzman describes the scene in the book. We've seen Jedi come back as blue ghosts. Maybe Sith can come back, and maybe there's some all-powerful Sith that's controlling whatever the dark side is. We did talk a lot about how the final battle frontier for Jedi might be in a spirit realm, so you'd have bad guy ghosts. Vader and Kenobi confrontation. This is what I believe to be the single most thrilling piece of concept art in this entire book. There's no text accompanying this piece by Jenkins, but I assume this was perhaps an early concept for the mirror cave scene. Here Rey is confronting what appear to be apparitions of both Darth Vader and old Ben Kenobi. Of course, without text I cannot be certain that this is in fact Vader and Kenobi. The designs do appear eerily similar. This could be an early design for Kylo Ren, and this could perhaps be an old Luke concept, but these two look more like Vader and Obi-Wan to me. Perhaps in a sequence similar to the cave scene in The Empire Strikes Back, where Rey would face the task of choosing whether to follow the pull of the light or the pull of the dark. Regardless of whatever this is, I'm highly disappointed we didn't get to see this eventuate on the screen. As a side note, however, I thought it's worth mentioning another concept design for the Mirror Cave sequence, also inspired by Empire's cave scene. It's this piece by James Klein. In this piece, mimicking the iconography of Luke seeing himself in Vader's helmet, Rey sees herself melded with Kylo's mask. Klein describes the image as showing a little bit of the Kylo-Rey Force connections, as well as the duality of light and dark, good and evil. Porg death. Remember that little sight gag where the Porgs were toying around with Luke's old lightsaber and the uncomfortable audience squirmed with the thought of a cute little weird bird thing getting impaled by a laser sword? Well, judging by this graphic piece by Lunt Davis, it looks like that cute, innocent little Porg was in fact at one point set to meet a horrid fate. Obviously, this is more than likely not something that would have been seriously considered, but I'm sure this concept will please those who didn't take a liking to those annoying little critters. The Jedi Texts. In designing Luke's sacred and ancient Jedi texts, artist Chris Kittysuckle designed a handful of pages using iconography and symbols previously featured across 40 years of Star Wars' original expanded universe. Not really a deleted scene, but an interesting concept and a great insight into exactly what's inside those texts, since we never get to see them opened up in the film. The Adventures of Finn and Rose. These pieces of concept art by Tani Kunitake show a scene ultimately deleted from the movie, which shows Finn and Rose within the laundry room of the First Order's Mega Destroyer after they sneak on board. This scene would have shown Finn and Rose follow a trail of lint piles down a cavernous tunnel until a trapdoor drops them into a massive tumble-dryer, exiting into the First Order laundry room. In what is described as a visual gag, this is certainly an interesting concept and one that would have been visually quite funny, but this almost reminds me of a prequel-era gag, and I'm ultimately glad this was removed from the movie. Another scene depicted here in concept art by Paul Catling and Richard Jenkins, as well as in storyboard concepts, would have seen Finn and Rose escaping down the Mega Destroyer's power converter hallway, said to be sparking with energy, after being discovered and fired upon by First Order troopers. The two eventually wind up hanging over a 6-inch wide bridge over a typically gaping Star Wars chasm. The scene would have been very reminiscent of the Death Star escape from A New Hope, and was ultimately rejected due to it being too on the nose. Character design changes. Of course, no good production goes by without a few character design changes. With a few featured throughout the book, here are a couple of my favourites. Sensei Luke. An aging Luke Skywalker went through many designs during the movie's conceptual period, ranging from Rugged Mountain Man, Silver Fox, and Hot Couture Jedi Knight. But the strangest of all designs is perhaps Chiang's design of an Asian-influenced Luke Skywalker. Just as previous movies, the design and structure of The Last Jedi was inspired somewhat by the work of Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa. So understandably, Luke Skywalker was perhaps at one point envisioned as some kind of Jedi sensei. Very strange, but an interesting concept. Casino DJ. Now, I'm not talking about the Spin Master playing that epic music in the casino on Canto Bight, but Benicio del Toro's character, DJ. In the movie, we first meet the disheveled character in prison, but one early concept had our first meeting with him set within the casino itself, shown here in a piece by Chris Weston. The book notes, for a time there was a choice as to whether DJ was going to be established in the casino or the jail. The jail look was probably better because it contrasts more with the disguise as an Imperial officer. General Hardass. Described in original concepts as General Hardass, Laura Dern's Vice Admiral Holdo was originally envisioned by concept artists as being in an officer's uniform. Writer-director Johnson, however, had a very different vision, describing her as being in something much more feminine, some kind of a gown, something that feels different from everyone else, balletic, dignified. C-3PO's red arm. In these pieces by Jenkins and Heinrich, C-3PO is pictured late in the movie, still with his red arm as seen in The Force Awakens. This book mentions multiple times that some concept art for this movie was designed at the same time as concepts for Force Awakens between 2013 and 2015. With no text explaining why 3PO has his red arm in these pictures, one assumes that the decision to give him a new golden arm at the end of Force Awakens and into The Last Jedi was perhaps made at the last minute. Rey's Resistance uniform. Rey is seen in her Resistance uniform, which she wears when she visits Luke on the island, for the first 2 acts of the movie, only changing into a more elegant version of her Force Awakens junker garb when she flies the Falcon back to save the Resistance in the movie's final act. However, early concept art by Kim Frederickson shows Rey still wearing her Resistance uniform when she travels to and arrives on Crate. Again, no text describes the reason for this change, but one assumes that Johnson, or someone on the production team, wanted Rey to appear in her iconic and recognizable costume at least once in the movie. Perhaps this was for marketing and merchandising purposes. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Gotta sell more of them toys. And at that, we come to a close on this video. While these are just some of the major highlights, at over 250 pages, The Art of the Last Jedi features hundreds more pieces of art and a plethora of wonderful insights into the design and concept process of the movie. I highly recommend you picking this up along with The Art of the Force Awakens if you don't have that one already. If you're a first time viewer to my channel and you've liked this video and you'd like to see some more, then please hit that big old subscribe button up on your screen. To all my regular viewers, thank you once again for joining me. To absolutely everybody out there, don't forget to hit that like button down below. It does a great deal in getting these videos out there. I hope I'll see you all again soon, guys. Take care, and may the Force be with you. Always.